Somebody actually called HR because the office exit sign was making them feel uncomfortable. Another person filed a formal, written complaint because the bathroom mirror was, and I quote, too honest. These are real complaints, filed by real adults, at real American workplaces, and they only get more unhinged from here. Smash that new hype button below to help us reach more people, because after watching this, you are going to need witnesses. 1. A woman in a busy office filed a formal HR complaint stating the microwave in the break room was too loud. She claimed the beeping sound gave her anxiety every single lunch break. HR reviewed the complaint with complete seriousness. A technician was called in. The microwave was tested 11 times. It was confirmed to be a standard microwave making standard microwave sounds. The woman then filed a second complaint about the technician's footsteps during the investigation. 2. A man at a corporate firm filed a formal complaint against his coworker's perfume. His exact words were that it smelled too pleasant and was pulling his attention away from his spreadsheets. HR sat in complete silence reading that sentence twice. The coworker was called in for a meeting. She arrived smelling wonderful. HR could not argue. The man later requested a fragrance-free zone covering his entire floor and 2 nearby parking spots. 3. An employee submitted a formal complaint to HR demanding an investigation into the office coffee. He explained it was too hot in the morning, but completely cold by the time he remembered it sitting on his desk. HR asked how long he was leaving it untouched. He said that was not the point. A meeting was scheduled. A coffee temperature log was created. 3 weeks of data were collected. The final report concluded the employee needed to drink his coffee faster. 4. A young woman in the marketing department walked into HR looking exhausted. She pointed at the motivational posters in the break room and said they were putting too much pressure on her. The poster said, "Hustle harder." She felt personally attacked every lunch break. HR offered to move her desk. She said the posters were everywhere. Facilities eventually agreed to replace one poster. They replaced it with a poster that said, "Breathe." She filed a complaint about that one too. 5. A senior colleague submitted a written complaint about a coworker who chewed gum too happily. He stated the cheerful chewing was making everyone around him feel bad about their own mood. HR read the complaint 3 times. They called the gum chewer in for a chat. She arrived smiling. HR asked her to chew with less enthusiasm. She switched to mints. The original complainant then filed a follow-up complaint that the mints smelled too optimistic. 6. A staff member in the sales department filed a complaint, stating the office plants were growing too fast. She said watching them thrive while her quarterly numbers were flat was affecting her self-esteem. Our HR forwarded the complaint to facilities. Facilities forwarded it back. The plants were eventually moved to a back room. The same employee then complained the office felt less lively and requested the plants be returned to their original spots. 7. An older gentleman from the finance team formally complained that the elevator music was too emotionally neutral. He argued it provided no creative stimulation and left him feeling empty between floors. HR contacted the building management. A new playlist was installed featuring soft jazz. The man returned the following week to complain the jazz felt too unpredictable for a Monday morning. A third playlist was sourced. He retired before anyone could confirm whether he liked it. 8. A young woman in the communications team submitted a formal workplace complaint about the office Wi-Fi name. She described it as aggressively boring and argued it was quietly destroying company culture one login at a time. HR forwarded the issue to IT. IT said changing the Wi-Fi name was not their department. Facilities said it was not theirs either. The complaint sat in 3 inboxes for 6 weeks until someone quietly renamed it to Wi-Fi and walked away. 9. A man in the operations team filed a written complaint stating his desk was positioned in a way that made him appear busy, even when he was not. He felt this created unrealistic expectations. HR confirmed they had never received this specific complaint before. His manager was consulted. The manager said that sounded like a good desk spot. The employee requested a relocation to somewhere less visually misleading. He was moved next to the printer. He complained the printer made him look even more productive. 10. A staff member formally reported her manager for saying good morning too enthusiastically before 10 in the morning. She described his energy as aggressive and his smile as suspiciously wide for that hour. HR called the manager in. He arrived cheerfully. HR asked him to consider a softer greeting before 10. He tried saying good morning in a flatter tone. 3 other employees then complained the manager seemed unhappy and filed a joint concern about workplace morale. 11. A worker submitted a formal written complaint stating that Monday meetings were being held on Mondays. Then he argued this was deeply inconsiderate scheduling and set a negative tone for the entire week. HR read the complaint and then read it again. They asked what day he would prefer. He said ideally no day. A poll was sent to the full team. 14 people voted for Friday. The meetings were moved to Friday. The same worker filed a new complaint that ending the week with a meeting was ruining his weekends. 12. A teenage intern submitted a written complaint that the break room fridge was too organized. She said every time she opened it and saw the perfectly arranged meals, she felt silently judged for bringing a crumpled paper bag with a questionable sandwich inside. HR contacted facilities. Facilities reorganized the fridge to look more casual. 2 senior employees complained their labeled containers had been disturbed. The fridge was restored to its original state. The intern started eating lunch in the car park. 13. An older woman in the legal department filed a formal complaint that the office windows let in too much natural light. She described her monitor as turning into a mirror of disappointment every afternoon. Facilities came to assess the situation. They agreed the light was strong. Blinds were installed by Wednesday. The woman then filed a follow-up complaint that the blinds made the room feel like a waiting room at a place she did not want to be visiting. 14. A young man in the design team filed a written complaint stating the new office chairs were too comfortable. He explained that within 20 minutes of sitting down, he felt genuinely sleepy and could not be held responsible for his productivity levels. AHR forwarded the complaint to facilities. Facilities said comfortable chairs were considered a workplace improvement. The man requested a less comfortable chair. A standard chair was sourced. He complained it hurt his back and asked for the comfortable one back. 15. A woman from the events team walked into HR visibly upset on a Thursday afternoon. The team celebration cake had been chocolate. She had been in a vanilla mood that day. She felt her emotional state had not been considered during the ordering process. HR asked if she had communicated her preference beforehand. She said that was not the point. A cake preference form was created and distributed to all staff. 40 responses came back. 31 of them said chocolate. 16. A staff member from the compliance team filed a formal complaint that HR kept sending reminder emails about not sending too many emails. He counted 7 reminder emails in 1 month on this exact topic. He found this deeply ironic and said so in writing across 2 full pages. HR received the complaint and sent him an email acknowledging it. He replied asking them to please stop emailing him. HR sent a final confirmation email. He did not reply, probably out of principle. 17. A quiet woman from the analytics team filed a complaint that her coworker was simply too good at his job. She explained his consistent high performance was making everyone else on the team look significantly worse by comparison. HR sat with that sentence for a long moment. The high-performing coworker was called in. He arrived with a completed report nobody had asked for yet. HR had no official policy covering excellence as a workplace disturbance. They created one the following month. 18. An older man from the logistics team filed a formal complaint about the newest hire. He stated the new employee had been too friendly on his very first day. The smiling and enthusiastic handshakes had raised serious suspicion. HR asked what specifically concerned him. He said nobody is that happy on day one. A meeting was arranged with the new hire. He arrived cheerfully with baked goods for the entire floor. The older man submitted a follow-up complaint about the muffins being too moist. 19. A woman in her 30s from the admin department submitted a formal written complaint stating the hallway between her desk and the bathroom was too long. She calculated the daily distance and presented HR with a printed spreadsheet. She argued the walking time was directly affecting her output. HR confirmed the hallway had always been that length. She requested a desk relocation closer to the bathroom. The only available desk near the bathroom was next to the hand dryer. She declined immediately. 20. A senior man from the executive floor filed a formal complaint that a coworker laughed too genuinely at the manager's jokes. He described it as manipulative and professionally suspicious behavior. HR asked how he could tell the laugh was genuine. He said that was exactly the problem. He could not tell. The accused coworker was called in. She laughed slightly during the meeting. HR noted this in the file. The original complainant requested the note be formally entered into the company record. It was. 21. A woman from the HR department herself filed a complaint that the office holiday party had too much holiday spirit. She described the decorations as aggressive and the carol music as relentless. Colleagues noted the irony of HR filing a complaint with HR. A junior staff member had to receive it with a straight face. The decorations were reduced by 40%. The music was lowered. The woman then complained the party felt depressing and asked why nobody had made an effort. The junior staff member took a long walk. 22. A middle-aged man from the procurement team filed a formal complaint stating his name was being pronounced correctly, but in a tone he did not appreciate. He submitted the complaint in writing with 3 examples. HR read all 3 examples carefully. They asked him to describe the preferred tone. He demonstrated it. HR listened with full seriousness. A memo was sent to his immediate team regarding tone awareness. His name was subsequently avoided altogether in meetings. He filed a new complaint about being excluded. 23. A young woman from the facilities team demanded a formal investigation into why the office always smelled faintly, like someone was about to have a birthday. She described it as a sweet, lingering scent with no clear origin. HR contacted building maintenance. Maintenance checked the vents. Nothing was found. A scent specialist was consulted at significant cost. The specialist confirmed the building smelled normal. The young woman said that was somehow worse. She requested a transfer to a different floor. The new floor smelled like birthdays too. 24. A man in his 50s from the IT department filed a written complaint about the standing desk he had personally requested 3 months earlier. He stated it was making him stand too much. HR pointed out he had specifically asked for a standing desk. He said he had not anticipated the commitment. A height-adjustable version was offered. He accepted it and spent 4 days finding the perfect position. He then complained the adjustment lever made a clicking sound that disrupted his concentration every single time. 25. A young man from the training department filed a complaint that the team building exercise was too team-oriented and had not allowed sufficient alone time. He said the constant group activities left him feeling overstimulated and socially exhausted by 11 in the morning. HR asked what he had expected from a team building day. He said perhaps some quiet reflection. A revised schedule was created with 2 solo activity breaks. He spent both breaks filing additional complaints from his phone about the group portions. 26. An older woman from the customer service team submitted a formal complaint about a coworker's desktop background. The image was a peaceful mountain lake at sunset. She argued looking at it during meetings made her feel like she should be on vacation rather than reviewing quarterly targets. HR asked her to focus on her own screen. She said the peaceful image was in her peripheral vision constantly. The coworker changed his background to a plain gray. The older woman said the gray felt aggressive. There was no winning. 27. A young woman from the operations team filed a formal complaint demanding HR address the office bathroom mirror. She described it as brutally honest first thing in the morning and said no employee should be subjected to that level of reflection before 9. HR confirmed mirrors were standard bathroom fixtures. She requested a softer lighting option above the mirror. Facilities assessed the situation. New warm lighting was installed by Thursday. She returned the following week to complain the warm lighting was making her look too relaxed for a workday. 28. A senior woman from the project management team filed a written complaint that conference calls had been ending too perfectly on time. She described it as deeply unnatural and suggested someone was clearly cutting people off before they finished speaking. HR reviewed 3 months of call records. Every call ended within 90 seconds of the scheduled finish. She found this suspicious. An investigation confirmed the meeting host simply used a timer. She submitted a follow-up complaint that using a timer felt controlling and somewhat theatrical. 29. A man from the administrative team filed a formal complaint that the office succulents were receiving more attention than the actual employees. He noted that colleagues regularly watered them, commented on their growth, and took photographs of them for the company newsletter. He had worked there 11 years without a single newsletter mention. HR acknowledged his tenure sincerely. A staff spotlight feature was launched the following month. His profile was published first. He complained the photo they used made him look like a succulent. 30. A young woman from the communications team filed a written complaint that the new company-wide email signature policy was ruining her personal brand. She had spent considerable time crafting her signature over 4 years. The new policy required everyone to use the same font and format. She described this as a creative erasure. HR explained the policy applied equally to all staff. She submitted her signature as a formal exhibit. It contained a motivational quote, 2 emoji, and a hyperlink to her personal blog. HR said no. 31. A man from the sales team filed a written complaint that the company logo printed on his coffee mug was positioned at an angle that made it face him directly while he drank. He described the constant eye contact from a logo as unsettling and said it felt like workplace surveillance in ceramic form. HR forwarded the complaint to the branding team. The branding team said the logo placement was intentional. He requested a mug without the logo. He was given a plain mug. He complained it felt too anonymous. 32. A middle-aged woman from the finance team submitted a formal written request demanding that casual Fridays be moved to Wednesdays. She argued that by Friday the morale boost was too late to matter, and that Wednesday was when the week truly broke a person. HR considered the request seriously. A company-wide vote was held, and Casual Friday won by a significant margin. She attended the next Casual Friday in full formal attire as a protest. Nobody commented. She filed a complaint that nobody had commented. 33. A young man from the legal team filed a written complaint about the vending machine location. It had been placed in a corridor where anyone walking past could clearly see what you were selecting. He said the lack of privacy was affecting his snacking decisions, and he had been forced to choose the healthy option 3 times that week purely out of embarrassment. HR relocated the machine around the corner. He immediately purchased 4 chocolate bars in a row and submitted a receipt for emotional damages. 34. A woman from the creative team filed a formal complaint that her video call background options were not aesthetically aligned with her personal values. The available backgrounds included a generic office, a blurred room, and a beach. She said none of these represented her authentic self. HR forwarded the complaint to IT. IT said they did not manage personal values. She submitted a 4-page document describing her aesthetic. IT read none of it. She started using a plain white background under protest and mentioned it every single call. 35. A senior man from the operations team filed what could only be described as a masterpiece of a complaint. He stated that the boss had remembered everyone's birthday except his for 6 consecutive years. HR apologized sincerely and made a note. And the following year, his birthday was celebrated with a cake, balloons, and a team announcement. He filed a complaint the very next morning stating the attention had been overwhelming, and he preferred to keep his birthday private. HR stared at the ceiling for a considerable amount of time. 36. A young woman from the development team submitted a formal complaint that the new productivity app installed by the company was making her too productive. She explained she was consistently finishing her work by 3 in the afternoon and had absolutely nothing left to do. HR said that sounded like a success. She disagreed strongly. She argued the empty hours were creating an existential restlessness she had not signed up for. HR assigned her additional tasks. She filed a complaint that the extra work was affecting her 3 o'clock routine. 37. An older man from the compliance team filed what is possibly the most self-aware complaint in recorded workplace history. He formally objected to the company's no-complaint policy. He found it deeply problematic that there was no official channel to raise concerns about the no-complaint policy itself. HR acknowledged the philosophical complexity. A feedback form was created specifically for complaints about the complaint policy. He submitted 17 suggestions on the form. HR printed them out and placed them in a folder. The folder was never opened. 38. A woman from the procurement team submitted a lengthy formal complaint after years of various grievances. She stated that after submitting 38 separate complaints, HR had still not addressed the one fundamental thing that was truly wrong with the office. HR asked her directly what that one thing was. She paused for a long moment. She said she preferred not to say. HR waited. She stood up, thanked them for their time, and left. The complaint remains open to this day with a single note that reads, "Unknown issue pending clarification." 39. A man from the technology team filed 2 separate complaints on the same day that directly contradicted each other. The first stated the parking lot was unreasonably far from the entrance, and that the daily walk was affecting his punctuality. And the second, filed an hour later, stated that the reserved spots near the entrance made him feel guilty for not walking more and were damaging his health conscience. HR read both complaints side by side in silence. Facilities suggested a medium distance spot. He said that felt like a compromise, and he did not appreciate those. 40. A young woman from the customer support team submitted a formal HR complaint about her coworker's mouse cursor. During a shared screen presentation, the cursor had moved across the screen in what she described as an aggressive and erratic manner. She said watching it dart around had raised her heart rate noticeably. HR contacted IT about cursor sensitivity settings. IT adjusted the settings. The coworker's cursor now moved more slowly and deliberately. The young woman filed a follow-up complaint that the slow cursor was somehow even more unsettling than the fast one. 41. A man from the administrative team filed a formal complaint that the office printer had a personal grudge against him specifically. He documented 17 separate incidents where the printer ran out of paper exclusively on days when he needed to print something important. He presented the data as a graph. HR reviewed the graph with genuine concern. IT inspected the printer thoroughly. The printer was functioning perfectly. The man requested the printer be replaced. A new printer was installed. It ran out of paper on his very first print job. He nodded slowly like he had always known. 42. A senior woman from the Human Resources Department filed a formal complaint about the company dress code policy. She objected specifically to the use of the word professional without any clear definition attached to it. She demanded a comprehensive clarification document. HR asked how long the document should be. She said thorough. A 47-page guideline was drafted over 3 weeks. She reviewed it and complained it used the word appropriate 17 times without defining that word either. The document was sent back for revisions. It is currently on its 92nd draft. 43. A young man from the finance team submitted a formal workplace complaint that his annual performance review had contained too many positive words. He listed them. Outstanding appeared 4 times. Exceptional appeared twice. He said the excessive praise made him deeply uncomfortable and suspicious of management's true intentions. HR asked if he would prefer a more critical review. He said absolutely not. He wanted the same review with more neutral language. His manager rewrote it using words like adequate and satisfactory. The young man filed a new complaint that the new version felt underwhelming. 44. A woman from the sustainability team filed a formal complaint that the office recycling bins were positioned too close to the regular rubbish bins. She said having to make an ethical decision about waste disposal before 8 in the morning was genuinely affecting her mental clarity for the rest of the day. Facilities moved the bins further apart. She said the distance now made recycling feel like a commitment. Facilities moved them closer again. She filed a third complaint that the whole situation was making her question her values, and she had not come to work for that. 45. An older man from the architecture team filed a written complaint that the new open-plan office layout contained too much empty space. He described the vast open air between desks as existentially unsettling and said all that unused atmosphere made him acutely aware of his own smallness in the universe. HR forwarded the complaint to the interior design consultant. The consultant suggested adding more plants. The man filed a separate complaint about the plants growing too fast. HR recognized that name from a previous complaint. It was a different man entirely. The plants were simply controversial. 46. A young woman from the editorial team submitted a formal complaint that the company motivational newsletter arrived every Friday afternoon without fail. She said receiving relentless positivity at the end of the working week was actively interfering with her plans to have a quietly miserable weekend. HR asked if she would like to unsubscribe. She said that was not the point. She wanted the newsletter moved to Tuesday, so the positivity had time to wear off before the weekend arrived. HR moved it to Tuesday. She complained Tuesday felt too early to be hopeful. 47. A middle-aged man from the strategy team filed a formal complaint demanding HR investigate why the office building consistently smelled faintly of possibility and ambition before noon. He described it as deeply unsettling and said no person should be confronted with that level of atmospheric expectation before finishing their first coffee. Facilities checked the ventilation system. Nothing unusual was detected. A scent consultant was brought in for the second time in company history. She said the building smelled like a building. The man requested a transfer to a floor that smelled more like indifference. None was available. 48. A young woman from the project team filed a formal, written complaint weeks after a particular incident had occurred. During an important client meeting, her laptop had emitted a low battery warning sound. 20 people had turned to look at her simultaneously. She described the collective disappointment in their eyes as haunting. She said she thought about it every night before sleeping. HR acknowledged her distress sincerely. IT provided her with a dedicated charging cable. She filed a follow-up complaint that the cable was too short and forced her to sit closer to the wall than she preferred. 49. A senior man from the operations team filed the final formal complaint of this collection with complete seriousness. He reported that the illuminated exit sign positioned directly above the main office door had become a daily temptation he could no longer responsibly ignore. He stated its constant green glow was creating a hostile work environment by suggesting there was somewhere better to be. HR read the complaint twice. Facilities offered to reposition the sign. He said that was not the point. The exit sign remains exactly where it is. He remains exactly where he is. Some signs mean everything and nothing at once. And there you have it. 49 people went to HR with the world's most urgent problems and somehow kept their jobs afterwards. If any of these felt a little too familiar, you might want to have a quiet word with yourself. If this video made you laugh even once, do humanity a favor and hit that like button. Subscribe to BrainFumble and turn on notifications, because we find this kind of beautiful nonsense so you never have to look for it yourself. Now tell us in the comments which complaint would you actually file if HR had to take it seriously.